This is Matt from NoCodeTrainer.com. I hope you like this video and you can take what you learned from it and incorporate it into your own Bubble application. If you do, please make sure to click like and leave a comment in the comment section with how you'll use it inside of your application. If you'd like to be kept up to date with more tips and tricks you can use in your Bubble app, please subscribe to our channel and be sure to check out NoCodeTrainer.com for more exclusive content. In this video, we're going to show you how you can create the frosted glass effect inside of your Bubble application. So what we're looking at here is a preview of it. I have on the page is a background set as this image of the nighttime sky. I have a group element that I've applied the frosted glass to, and then inside of that I have a text element, and it is set with a bright yellow color. So what we're doing inside of the Bubble application to get this started, I just ended up on my page itself, gave it a background style of image, and then I have a dynamic image. So focusing on how we do the frosted glass, I have on the page an HTML element with this code inside of it. Now, before you can actually get into applying this code, you need to first set up your application to be able to make use of it. First thing you're going to need to do is go into your settings, go to General. On this, expose the option to add ID attribute to HTML elements. Check that box. Inside of the plugins, you want to go to Classify and install that free plugin Classify. Then once you have that set up, you can come back into your page and actually set up this HTML. And what you'll want to be doing though is first to have a actual element with the ID attribute set to it to have the same class recognized as the ID. So what I have in this group here, when we scroll to the bottom of it, and just as an idea, this group has no style, no background style or anything. It's just, nothing into it. And the ID attribute, we set it up just like this. I've labeled it as glass. You could change that label to be whatever you might want it to be. But we're setting it up in this sort of formatting to be able to make use of it within that Classify plugin and have it recognized by the HTML as the correct element to apply this glass effect to. If you wanted to have multiple groups inside of your application that have this effect applied to them on the same page, you can have in each of those groups the same ID attribute as we have here, and then the HTML and the CSS applied within there will get placed automatically onto all of those elements that have the same ID attribute. So once I put that ID attribute onto it, I just dropped a text element right inside of it. I didn't do anything to this text element. It's just a regular text element. There's no code applied to this text element or anything else like that. So you can, once you have your container set up to be frosted glass, just put whatever you want really inside of it, and it should be able to just kind of sit on top and stand out as you would hope to. If you wanted to do something a little bit more with the frosted glass effect, you could actually apply it to other elements that are inside of the container and have this sort of dual setup in there. And you'll probably end up applying different code in terms of the way it's structured here with a single ID attribute. You maybe would end up having different ID attributes for the other elements that are inside of it. But in the most basic format of just a single container as the frosted glass, we've got the ID attribute on it that we labeled as glass. And so what we've done here is we've given it this background color, and this background color that is using RGBA 255 across the board, put a 0.3. What this means is the 255 three times, that is the RGBA for white, and then 0.3 is an opacity setting. So you can actually make changes to this opacity setting if you wanted to, and kind of change how much of a see-through sort of effect takes place with the glass, and maybe even see how it affects it when you put a different color for RGB. My assumption though is that you would want to stick with white and just maybe make changes to the opacity. After you have this portion of it, make sure you have important. If you don't have important, there's a good chance that it does not get applied, and so we want to have that declaration there of importance so that it will basically be the overriding type of CSS applied to any element that has this ID attribute added to it. So what we have above it is the same ID attribute of glass, but then we have these two semicolons in the word before. Now what this is doing is creating what's called a pseudo element. And a pseudo element is essentially an element that doesn't really exist except through this code. And it's essentially kind of, I don't know if it's really like a mirror or if it's just something that is more or less sort of attached to the main element, in our case, this group that we have. But either way, we need this set up, and you need to have the same settings as they are right here. You can change opacity and play around with that, but everything else up here, you want to keep it just the way it is. You can maybe play around with background color and see the effects that take place, but most likely you want to stick with white. So as soon as you set this up inside of your Bubble app, and then you go ahead and preview, you should have the frosted glass effect just like this and be able to start making use of this new sort of hot trend within app design and web design to make use of the frosted glass effect inside of your Bubble application. So hopefully this was helpful for you and you'll be able to find a way to implement it into your Bubble app. Thanks for watching the video. Hope that you found this helpful. If you'd like to be able to get editor access, please make sure that you check out the site, NoCodeTrainer.com. The link is in the description to the video, where you'll be able to gain access into the editor and be able to check out how things were set up within the application itself.